In this road to glory, my name is Doug Nelson, a 5'9" wide receiver who just transferred to the Shawnee Wolves, an Oklahoma high school powerhouse. Despite only being 5'9", I've got hands and I've got heart, and some people have said that if I work hard enough, I could be the best Oklahoma high school receiver since Wes Welker. But in order to make that happen, I'd have to build a relationship with my new quarterback, Steve Murka, who to start off our week 1 game against UConn had no interest in even looking in my direction. But finally on third down, he was able to hit me on a comeback route along the sideline, and I had my first catch of the season. Later in the drive, I was able to beat the press coverage, and Steve hit me over the middle to get our team inside the 5-yard line, and on the very next play, our tight end Michael Weisbecker hauled in the 4-yard touchdown for our team's first points of the year. On the next drive, I showed off my hands by hauling in this back shoulder laser, and later in the drive, I sliced right between the zones to bring in my first touchdown. This game turned into a blowout pretty quick, with Steve hitting me for another touchdown in the back corner of the end zone, and it seemed like we were completely in sync. Everything was going perfect until I called for the ball on an out route and caused Steve to throw his first interception of the season. Steve was not happy, and despite my teammates congratulating me on earning player of the game honors, I knew that I had to earn Steve's trust if we were going to win a state championship together. Our week 2 game against Holdenville could not have gotten off to a worse start when on our first drive, I pulled up short on this drag route and caused Steve Murka to throw another interception. No matter what we tried, we couldn't get on the same page, and after Steve and I couldn't even connect on a simple out route on 4th down, we found ourselves down 14-0, and I could feel my teammates starting to wonder if I should even be on the field. Desperately needing to win over my teammates and inject new life into the team, on this punt return, I was able to put on a nasty cut to reverse field, and despite only being 5'9", I kept my legs turning and just barely outran the defenders to finally get our team on the scoreboard. I was so pumped up for my team that I went God mode, pancaking cornerbacks on touchdown runs, beating zones over the top for touchdowns, and even channeling my inner Randy Moss to go up and make this ridiculous catch over the defender. I was so happy that I had finally earned my teammates' trust, and the cherry on top was that I got my very first scholarship offer from nearby Tulsa, but I also felt like I had so much more potential. In our week 3 game against winless Paul Valley High School, it felt like my relationship with Steve Murka took a major step backwards after we failed to connect on the first drive, and he threw yet another interception trying to force me the ball. But we talked things over on the sideline, and on the next drive, he hit me perfectly in stride on back-to-back plays for my first touchdown of the game. Wanting to solidify his trust once and for all, on the next drive, I made one of the best plays of the entire season, going up for the ball over the safety and then running through an arm tackle to take it all the way for a touchdown. At this point, our team was dialed in, and after another 5-touchdown day, I had worked my way up to being a 3-star recruit, and more Division I offers started rolling in. On the road against Elk City in week 4, I heard a rumor before the game that a college scout from the University of Oklahoma had come to watch me play to see if I was worthy of playing in the Big 12. I wasted no time in showing him what I was capable of, and on the first drive, I torched the defense on a streak, and Steve Murka hit me perfectly in stride so I could take it all the way for the touchdown. On the next drive, I channeled my inner Wes Welker and sliced right over the middle for another touchdown to put our team up 14-0 in the first quarter. Knowing a scout was there watching in person had me playing the best football of my life. My burst off the line was faster, my routes were crisper, and I was asserting my dominance for the entire game. It was another solid performance, and it earned me my biggest scholarship offer so far from the number 12 ranked Oklahoma State. After spending that week feeling on top of the world, I wasn't very focused in the first half of our week 5 game against Okmulgee. I ran the wrong route on our first drive, which caused Steve Murka to throw an interception, and then on the second drive, I called for the ball late, which led to another pick. Late in the first half, I'll admit I got scared of getting hit on this ball over the middle, and on the next play, Steve Murka threw a really bad ball into traffic for his 3rd interception of the half. Fortunately, my teammates stepped up to finally get us on the scoreboard before halftime, but this entire half was the wake-up call I needed to remind me that no matter how many scholarship offers I got, I had to stay humble and play hard for my teammates every single week. In the second half, I got my mind back on track, bodying out the defender on this perfect back shoulder throw from Steve Murka and taking it all the way for a monster touchdown. Despite my poor first half, my stellar second half meant that I was now up to a 4-star recruit and got scholarship offers from Oklahoma and Texas, some of the biggest programs in all of college football. In our week 6 game against Durant, our offense exploded right out of the gate with Steve Murka hitting me on this hole shot against Durant's cover 2 defense, and just a couple plays later, I was able to work hard to find the open space and bring in the touchdown. In practice this week, Coach had worked with me on being more physical on my routes, and his coaching paid off when I was able to fight through the tough press coverage and burst into the open space up the middle, where I hauled in my second touchdown of the game. This was our team's most complete game of the season, and everyone could tell that me and Steve Murka were maybe the best quarterback wide receiver duo in the entire state, as he kept delivering one perfectly placed ball after another. My 313 yards and 5 touchdowns made it the best performance of my high school career, and to my surprise, I finished the game as a 5-star recruit. Our Week 7 game was against winless Claremore. On the first drive, we picked up right where we left off last week, with Steve Murka hitting me on a gorgeous fade down the sideline and then giving me the chance to show off with a spectacular diving touchdown catch over the middle. We could do basically whatever we wanted on offense, and I was super happy to see my teammate Gio Saria get his first touchdown catch of the year, and then on the next drive, I show off my laser-like focus as I come down with this wild catch off a tipped ball. Now, we were up by so much that Coach didn't let us pass the ball in the fourth quarter, so I spent my time pancaking the smaller defenders because we don't take any plays off. Despite my 2 drops in this game, it was still a solid performance overall, and I secured another scholarship offer, this time from Washington State. With just 2 weeks left until playoffs and our game against Frederick High School, we all decided as a team that we wanted to help our running back Alex Howell, who had willingly accepted his role in our pass-heavy offense, score as many touchdowns as possible. The first drive went to perfection as I helped move the ball down the field and get it into the red zone, where we let Alex finish the job and get his first touchdown of the game. It was a similar story on the second drive. Our priority was to feed Alex, and that's exactly what we did as he punched in his second score of the game. By the time the clock hit 0, he had racked up not 3, not 4, but 5 rushing touchdowns, and obviously he had earned his player of the game honors. While I didn't score any touchdowns, I was super happy for Alex, and our team morale was at an all-time high. Now, in our final week of the regular season, it was senior night here at Shawnee High School, and the team was unstoppable. Alex Howell was running in more touchdowns, Steve Murka was dropping dimes left and right, and I was making defenders look silly as I broke a tackle and took it myself for a touchdown. Everyone on our team was literally unguardable, and it pretty quickly turned into a competition to see who could make the most spectacular play. But after I got laid out on this catch over the middle, Coach put an end to that before any of us could get hurt. That brought our regular season to an end, and along with it came a scholarship offer from Stanford, but all I could focus on right now was the high school state playoffs. In the first round of the playoffs, we faced Lone Grove High School, who must have had a cupcake schedule this year because they had no business being 8-1. I immediately showed everyone that I meant business because on the first drive, I caught a pass in open space and then threw the safety off me and took it all the way for the game's first score. Our team was playing nearly perfect football as Steve Murka kept putting the ball in the perfect spot and I kept finding open space for him to throw to. Late in the second quarter, I caught my second touchdown to make it a 24-0 game, and the route was on. In the second half, I went back to pancaking defensive backs to help Alex Howell get some playoff touchdowns. And following the game, after yet another stellar performance, I got a scholarship offer from the number 2 team in the country, Ohio State. In the state quarterfinals, we had a rematch against Yukon High School, and I got the team hyped up early. First by taking the opening kickoff all the way to the 50-yard line, and then on my first catch of the game, when it took not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, but 6 defenders to bring me down. We were dialed in after that, and Steve Murka wasted no time hitting me over the middle to give us a 7-0 lead. Now, Steve got a little too amped up because on our next drive, he threw a really bad interception, but after calming him down on the sideline, we got back to work, hitting completion after completion, and he was able to hit me on an in route for my second touchdown of the first quarter. Now, UConn didn't go down without a fight, and in the third quarter, with only a 13-point lead, we needed one more score to really take control of the game, and that's when Steve Murka threw an absolute laser to me along the sideline, and then Alex Howell punched it in at the goal line. We kept pushing for more, and on this catch over the middle, I nearly got into the end zone, but a dirty horse collar tackle kept me out, and I was a little shaken up after that play, so Coach took me out, and I watched from the sidelines as Steve Murka ran the ball in himself to truly put the game away. After my 4 touchdown performance, I got a scholarship offer from the number 11 ranked Oregon Ducks, and with all these offers piling up, I had to make sure I didn't let myself get too distracted while we were just 2 wins away from winning a state title. Now, in the state semifinals, I'm not quite sure if we were in Oklahoma anymore, given the 12-hour bus ride and the mountainous desert around us, but all that mattered was coming away with a win and making it to the state championship. Our team got off to a disastrous start when on just the second play of the game, Steve Merca threw a pick 6 to give Holdenville a 7-0 lead. We could tell that Steve was rattled because he started trying to force me the ball even though I wasn't open, and it led to another interception on our second drive. Just like when we played the other Holdenville High School way back in week 2, I needed to make a play on special teams to inject new life into this team, and that's exactly what I did by returning this punt all the way to Holdenville's 38-yard line, and just a few plays later, Steve Merca hit me over the middle to tie the game at 7. Steve was back in the zone, and with our team back on track, on our next drive, Steve hit me on a beautiful ball, which I took all the way for a 40-yard touchdown. The game ended up being a blowout, and as we piled on points in that cool nighttime desert air, our whole team knew that we were just 1 win away from glory. In the state championship game, which took place in the Oklahoma Sooners Stadium, this was my chance to cement my legacy as one of the greatest wide receivers in Oklahoma State history. With tens of thousands of people watching us take on the undefeated Durant High School, I stepped up big on the first drive when Steve Merca hit me on a perfect slant, and then I plowed right over the safety to take it all the way to the end zone. Alex Howell punched in a rushing touchdown on the next drive, and with that, the floodgates were opened. If there was any doubt about who the best team in Oklahoma was coming into this game, those doubts were put to rest as we dominated Durant by a score of 56-7 to take home the state title. I celebrated with my teammates and reminisced on the incredible season we'd had together, but that night when I got a scholarship offer from the number 4 ranked Clemson Tigers, I realized it was time to pick a school and decide the program that I would call home as I continue on my road to glory. Do I head to Columbus to play for the Ohio State Buckeyes, who have been an NFL wide receiver factory in recent years? Do I head to LA to play for the USC Trojans and embrace the SoCal Hollywood lifestyle? Or do I stay close to home to play for Oklahoma and listen to the band play Boomer Sooner 800 times a game? These were all incredible options, but I shocked everyone when I announced that I would be playing in Death Valley for Dabo Swinney and the Clemson Tigers. I was the 4th string wide receiver going into our massive week 1 game against number 4 Georgia, and to my shock, Dabo gave me the nod as the starting kick returner. I stood on the sidelines completely blown away by the 80,000 screaming fans all around us and watched as our quarterback Hunter Johnson led the offense down the field on our first drive. I was just soaking in the game day atmosphere when all of a sudden our wide receiver John Williams stayed down with an injury after this catch over the middle, and Dabo Swinney told me to get in the game. My route was a simple slant, and Hunter Johnson hit me perfectly in the hands, but I got popped by a linebacker who jarred the ball free, meaning I had dropped my first collegiate target. But boy did I bounce back quick, because on the very next play, I was on a post route to split the safeties, and Hunter Johnson threw me an absolute laser over the middle for the first touchdown of the game and of my career. After that, I spent most of the game watching from the sidelines, and with under 3 minutes remaining, Hunter Johnson was able to hit our All-American wide receiver Bo Collins to give us a 20-10 lead and send the Bulldogs packing. In week 2, we played in the rain against a random FCS school who I'd never heard of before, and for me, it was mostly standing on the sidelines watching the offense work while also getting mostly manhandled on kickoff coverage. But in the 4th quarter, with the team up 34-0, Dabo let all the backups get some reps, and I was able to beat the man coverage on this in route to catch the second touchdown of my college career. Even though I only had 2 catches again, Dabo told me after the game that I had done well enough to challenge Joseph Nada for the 3rd string receiver spot in practice this coming week. In my position battle at practice, I put an end to it before it could even get started when on my very first rep, the ball was lobbed to me on a fade route, and I went up to moss the safety and then take it in for the touchdown. After my second touchdown, the battle was officially over, and I was now the 3rd string receiver. After a bye week, in our week 4 game against NC State, I was determined to show the coaches I had what it took to be on the field for every snap. Late in the first quarter, even though I didn't have any catches yet, I still made a huge impact by returning this punt 48 yards for our offense to start with the ball in the red zone. Just a couple couple plays later, Hunter Johnson was able to hit Beau Collins on a touchdown over the middle to give us a 7-3 lead. Now, despite that lead, our offense struggled for most of the game, and with under 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter, we found ourselves in a tie game facing 3rd and 15. I was the wheel of our post-wheel route combo, and the safety bit super hard on the post, leaving me wide open for the 27-yard touchdown. I thought I was the hero of the game, but after our defense gave up a quick touchdown, we found ourselves desperately trying to get into field goal range before the time ran out. With just 4 seconds left from the 44-yard line, we had no choice but to throw a Hail Mary, and unbelievably, NC State ran a cover 1 defense, letting All-American Beau Collins get over the top to bring in the touchdown with 0 seconds remaining on the clock. It was a surreal win for our team, and I was on top of the world having caught a touchdown in every single game of my college career so far. Unfortunately, I got COVID and missed our games against Wake Forest and Syracuse, but I was healthy again for our game against Boston College, which would prove to be a milestone game for me. Despite our offense not doing particularly well against Boston College's surprisingly stout defense, in the second quarter, I was able to shake off my defender and get open for a 25-yard catch to get us across midfield. Unfortunately, we couldn't convert that field position into points, and by late in the third quarter, it was still a 7-0 game. It felt like on every single route, I had 2 or 3 defenders covering me in all directions, when finally on a 3rd and 5 from midfield, I was able to make another impact play by getting over the zone coverage on this crossing route and hauling in a beautiful ball from Hunter Johnson for a 39-yard gain. That resulted in a Will Shipley touchdown run, and after BC responded with a touchdown of their own, I caught another huge pass by splitting the safeties on this seam route to get us on the cusp of field goal range again. After feeding Will Shipley the ball to run down the clock, we secured the 14-7 win, and while I was beyond thrilled to have my first ever 100 receiving yard game, in the back of my mind, I couldn't help but be a little concerned by how much our team was struggling to score points. After my huge day against Boston College, I found myself in a position battle with John Williams for the second string receiver spot. Unfortunately, it was an extremely off day for Hunter Johnson, who struggled to make good reads or good throws, and even threw the ball straight into my head on this jet touch pass. Needless to say, I didn't win the position battle, but I was still having a magical year so far, and I was super pumped for our next game. This week we were taking on Florida State, once again playing on ESPN in primetime, but in the first half, it felt like our offense was folding under the pressure of the big stage. I couldn't hide my frustration after it felt like I kept getting open, but Hunter Johnson wasn't even looking in my direction. We kept having to settle for field goals, but on the sidelines in between drives, I told him to look my way because I was getting separation, and with 2 minutes left in the first half, he did exactly that, hitting me on a perfect strike over the middle for a 14-yard touchdown. Now in the fourth quarter, FSU was still hanging around when on the 2nd and 17 play, Dabo called for me to get a bubble screen. My teammates executed their blocks to perfection, and all of a sudden, I had 50 yards of green grass in front of me. I'm no track star, but I was fast enough to outrun one safety and then just barely break through the arm tackle of the other to take it all the way for a 73-yard touchdown. We won the game by a score of 26-14, and my insane day was enough to earn me player of the game honors and what I knew would be a game that I'd remember for the rest of my life. In week 9 on the road against Maryland, I picked up right where I left off last game, getting on the scoreboard twice in the first half, first on this out route and just barely keeping my toes in bounds, and then again when Maryland wasn't even remotely guarding the flat and Hunter Johnson hit me for the easy touchdown. Maryland kept the game close, but we got out of there with a 28-25 win, and after another great performance, I figured that Dabo had to move me up to being the second string receiver. But Dabo told me that no matter what I did in the game, the second string position had to be earned in practice. So I went into my next position battle with confidence, but that would quickly turn into major frustration. Despite Dabo saying that this was my chance to prove myself, he was calling wildcat plays where the running back was throwing to me, or calling screen plays we'd never practiced before that got me completely blown up. I didn't even come close to winning the position battle, but I knew that I had to put all that frustration aside because our team was still undefeated, and all I cared about at the end of the day was that we kept on winning. Our next game was on the road against Virginia, and despite only being 4-4, they gave us all that we could handle. Things got a little heated on the sidelines after Hunter Johnson threw this atrocious interception over the middle, and Dabo Swinney decided to bench me for the rest of the first half. My frustration only grew stronger when, with just 6 seconds left before halftime, Dabo had Hunter Johnson throw to the end zone instead of kicking the field goal. By the end of the play, time had expired, meaning instead of taking our easy points, we had come away empty-handed. The offense wasn't much better in the second half, but I was able to get some open space on this crossing route, which eventually led to a field goal. That was it for the scoring though, and as we ran out the clock in the fourth quarter, we We all knew that if we didn't get our offense figured out, it was only a matter of time before it would all fall apart on us. Now, the next part of our schedule fortunately was a breeze as we cruised past 1-8 Georgia Tech and an FCS team who is apparently playing 3 games a week, which I think is against NCAA rules, but I do appreciate how much they love football. During this time, I did finally win my position battle against John Williams, making me officially a second stringer, meaning I'd finally get to be on the field for a decent number of snaps. The energy in practice was electric because with just 1 week left in the regular season, we were sitting at 11-0 and held the number 2 spot in the college football playoff rankings. For rivalry week, our game was on the road against South Carolina, and this was without a doubt my least favorite place I had ever played. I hated their colors, I hated their fans, and I couldn't understand why they had so many chants about Cox, so I just wanted to get a win and get the hell out of there. Unfortunately, this was the worst our offense had played all year, and late in the first half when we were down 3-0, Hunter Johnson threw an awful interception in our own territory. That set up a Spencer Rattler touchdown pass, giving South Carolina a 10-0 lead heading into halftime. After composing ourselves at halftime, we put together a solid drive that ended with a Bo Collins touchdown to make it a 3-point game, but by late in the third quarter, we were down 9 points and I still didn't have a single catch. Dabo decided to roll the dice and go for it on 4th and 6 instead of kicking the field goal to make it a 1-score game, and I was able to fight off the press coverage to find open space on the slant to convert the first down. Will Shipley punched in a rushing touchdown on the next play, and after our defense immediately forced a turnover, we were able to kick a field goal to take a 1-point lead with just 2 minutes remaining. The defense came up clutch once again with a 4th down sack on Spencer Rattler, and another rushing touchdown helped us come away with a 24-16 win. That clutch 4th down catch was my only reception of the entire game, and I couldn't help but feel like I should be more involved in the offense. The ACC championship game was in Charlotte against the number 12 ranked Virginia Tech Hokies, and this is the game that made it extremely clear to everyone that I was in Dabo's doghouse. Maybe it's because of how frustrated I had gotten during the position battle, or maybe it's because I was so vocal about the fact that his questionable play calling was hurting the offense, but whatever the reason was, he did not want me to play in this game. In the first half, I had 2 catches for 16 yards, including this huge conversion on 3rd and 12 that set us up for an easy field goal, but that was it for me. I spent the rest of the game standing on the sidelines, and while I was super happy to see Hunter Johnson hit Bo Collins on this massive 80-yard touchdown pass in the third quarter, and then see our defense slam the door shut on Virginia Tech's money drive to clinch the ACC title, the celebration was a little bittersweet because I wanted so badly to be out there on the field with my teammates. By closing out the regular season with a perfect 13-0 record, we were ranked number 2 in the college football playoffs. After easily taking down Iowa State in the semifinals, we headed to the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, California to face the Florida Gators in a 1-versus-2 showdown for the national championship. Apparently, they had contracted out the end zone painting to a local abstract artist. I wasn't a big fan of it, but maybe it's too sophisticated for me to understand. The offense got off to a decent start in terms of moving the ball, but on each of our first 2 drives, we stalled out in the red zone and had to settle for field goals. In the second half, we stalled out yet again in the red zone, but at least kicking a field goal made it just a 1-score game and kept our hopes alive of making the comeback. Florida kicked a field goal late on their next drive to once again make it a 2-score game, and needing points quick, we marched down the field yet again. But on 3rd and 8, with just 3 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter, Hunter Johnson made his worst decision of the entire season, throwing an interception that got returned all the way to the 16-yard line, and just 2 plays later, Trevor Etienne punched in the touchdown to secure the win for the Gators. I had to give major props to Florida because they were clearly the better team that day, but as I looked at my stat line and realized that in the 3 biggest games of the year, I had recorded a combined 6 catches and no touchdowns, I couldn't help but start to wonder if there might be another program out there that was willing to help me reach my full potential. As the top freshman wide receiver in the country, I had the option to transfer basically anywhere I wanted. But after thinking about it long and hard, I decided that I'm not just going to run away at the first sign of trouble. I was going to give it one more shot with the Clemson Tigers. This year I came in as the second string receiver, and it would be crucial that me and my new quarterback, DJ Uiagalelei, who I just called DJ, could find chemistry fast. In week 1, we were on the road in primetime against the Georgia Bulldogs, and the offense got off to an awesome start as we showed some new creativity on this motion wide receiver option play that I took for 18 yards to get us inside the 10-yard line. That led to a Davis Allen touchdown catch, and it looked like the offense was going to be dangerous this year. Now, midway through the third quarter, I still didn't have a catch, and it seemed like DJ felt bad because he tried to force me the ball on this streak, which was double covered, but fortunately it fell incomplete and we kicked another field goal to go up 20-10. But late in the third quarter, things began to fall apart when our defense allowed a quick Georgia touchdown, and then on 3rd and 9, DJ was completely blind to the linebacker standing right in front of me and threw it right to him for an interception that resulted in another Georgia touchdown. But in the final 2 minutes, we were marching down the field, converting one first down after another, and it really felt inevitable that we were going to get into the end zone. But that's when DJ made his worst decision of the night, and he tried to force a ball to our receiver up the seam, resulting in another interception and handing us a loss in our first game of the season. For the first time in my career, I didn't record a single catch, and I was already wondering if I had made a huge mistake by staying at Clemson. In week 2 against Bowling Green, I reminded the coaches immediately that I'm still on this team and I can still make plays when DJ hit me along the sideline, and then I threw off the safety, took off into the open space, said hi to the dancing tiger on the sidelines, and waltzed into the end zone. On the next drive, DJ hit me on a beautiful fade route, and it seemed like we might actually be starting to build some real chemistry. With 2 minutes left in the second quarter, I struck again, annihilating the press coverage and hauling in the catch for the 51-yard gain, and 2 plays later, I followed it up with another touchdown over the middle. Now, despite this offensive explosion, we struggled to put Bowling Green away, and with just a minute left, they connected on this 70-yard pass to put them in position to possibly take the lead and hand us our first 0-2 start in decades. Fortunately, the defense came up huge and slammed the door shut, allowing us to celebrate our first win of the season and the best game of my college career so far. After we took down Eastern Michigan with ease, we threw on the purple unis for our huge game in Tallahassee to take on undefeated Florida State. The game was a defensive struggle, and with just a minute left in the first half, we only led 3-0 when on this third down play, 6 FSU defenders bent me over backwards and f***ed me, which left me pretty sore, but at least we got the first down. That led to a Peyton Page touchdown catch, which gave us a 10-0 lead heading into halftime. In the second half, our defense let FSU right back into the game, and with the score 10-10 late in the third quarter, I became a third down converting machine. First, I caught this slant over the middle to convert a 3rd and 5, and then later in the drive on 3rd and 2, I caught another slant over the middle before getting absolutely nailed by the FSU defender, which was becoming the norm at this point, and it forced me to walk gingerly off the field yet again. My efforts were in vain, however, since the drive resulted in no points, and FSU kicked a field goal with a little over 2 minutes left to take a 13-10 lead. With just under a minute left, I was able to fight off the press coverage and find open space, and DJ hit me to get us on the edge of field goal range. But we wanted to win right now, and on 1st and goal with just 30 seconds left, DJ was able to hit Adam Randall in the corner of the end zone for the game-winning touchdown. It was a great come-from-behind win for our team, and another solid performance that gave me new hope for what the rest of the season might hold. However, as quickly as my optimism went up after the FSU win, it came crashing down even faster in our Week 6 game against Maryland. In what was DJ's worst game of the season, I genuinely questioned whether he had his eyes open when he was throwing the ball, first throwing an interception right to the linebacker when I was running a crosser over the middle, and then throwing another one on our next drive, trying to hit me on a fade in the back corner of the end zone. Meanwhile, Tua Tagovailoa's younger brother Talia was leading the Maryland offense up and down the field with ease, and after another atrocious DJ interception, we went into halftime down 24-0. Everyone was shell-shocked, and despite our best efforts to fight back and make an epic comeback, the defense couldn't come up with a stop in the fourth quarter, and this 5-yard touchdown pass by Talia made the score 31-10 to officially put the game away. While I did have a respectable game on the stat sheet, that was trivial compared to my disappointment that with 2 losses already, we were almost definitely knocked out of contention for the college football playoffs. Now, in our next game against 2-5 Wake Forest, you'd think that our team would play with a fire under our ass and beat the living crap out of them, right? Wrong. After the first quarter, we were losing 7-0 and the team was in shambles on the sideline, but that's when on the 2nd and 10 play in the second quarter, I tried to breathe new life into this team by beating the corner on a post route and taking it 44 yards for the touchdown. But I wasn't satisfied with just one touchdown, so on the next drive, I said, how about I do it again, as I caught another post over the middle and casted all those Demon Deacons off of me on my way to a second touchdown. But despite my heroic effort, we collapsed in the second half while while Wake fought back, and in the fourth quarter, we found ourselves losing 23-14. We weren't going down without a fight, however, and after this 53-yard catch and run by EJ Williams got us in the red zone, for a brief moment we believed that we would make the comeback. But our final light of hope was extinguished when DJ threw an interception at the 1-yard line, and our team was left stunned in disbelief at what had just happened. I wish I could say things got better in our game against NC State, but it was yet another second half implosion. DJ was a turnover machine, and this fumble in the fourth quarter marked his third turnover of the game. The lone bright spot for me was later in the fourth quarter when NC State just straight up didn't guard me, and I was able to take it all the way for a free 60-yard touchdown. Unfortunately, our defense couldn't get a stop after that, and NC State kicked a field goal to make it a 2-score game and secure the win. Our home fans booed us off the field, and with a 3-4 record in a season that started with national championship aspirations, all of a sudden we weren't even sure if we would make a bowl game. Dabo Swinney was fired following the game, and offensive coordinator Brandon Streeter was promoted to take his place. Coach Streeter wasted no time in revamping the offense, and in our first practice under him, he let me battle Joseph Ngata for the starting receiver spot. I instantly noticed a difference in his play calling, and I was getting open left and right. I won the position battle with ease, and as just a true sophomore, I was now a starting wide receiver for the Clemson Tigers. In our next game, we were hosting number 23 Virginia, and more than anything, we wanted to get Coach Streeter a win in his first game as a head coach. Unfortunately, it was another rough start for DJ, who in the second quarter was just 1 of 6 on his passing attempts, but then with just 2 minutes left in the first half, he got back on track by hitting me on this corner route, and I was able to make the safety miss and take it all the way for the 43-yard touchdown. In the fourth quarter, the score is exactly the same when DJ hit me on another laser, this time up the seam, and I hauled it in for my second score of the game. Unfortunately, our defense, which last year had been so clutch in these situations, allowed Virginia to drive down the field and take a 1-point lead with just a minute left in the game. But unlike our previous games under Dabo Swinney, this time the offense was unfazed, and with just 53 seconds left, DJ placed this ball perfectly between 3 Virginia defenders, and I was able to hold on through the contact to get us on the edge of field goal range. Our kicker BT Potter split the uprights as time expired, and the team celebrated that we had finally been able to win a game for the first time in a month. I earned player of the game honors for my performance, and it truly felt like this game was a turning point for our season. Now, after I got hurt in our road win at Georgia Tech, I had to watch from the sidelines as we lost to Boston College in the final seconds of the fourth quarter, but our team's spirit stayed high heading into our game against 7-3 Syracuse. A couple bad breaks had us in a 10-0 hole late in the first half, but that's when DJ was able to hit me for a 30-yard catch on this broken play, which set up a touchdown run from DJ on the very next play. Our team never stopped fighting, and another broken play in the third quarter set us up for a field goal to make the score 16-10, but after each team answered with touchdowns on their following drives, we found ourselves once again needing to clutch up in the fourth quarter. On 3rd and 10 with just 44 seconds left, I found a soft spot over the middle to get us inside the 5-yard line, and on the very next play, DJ hit me once again for the go-ahead touchdown. Unfortunately, our defense let Syracuse get in field goal range, and their kicker nailed this 52-yarder as time expired to send the game into overtime. After swapping field goals, our defense came up with the biggest stop of the day by intercepting this pass on the goal line, and after I nearly got us in the end zone on our next drive, Peyton Page was able to finish it off with a 3-yard touchdown run to send Syracuse packing and officially make us a bowl-eligible team. Now, after beating them on the road last year, this year the Cox from South Carolina came in our house, and I was pumped to beat them again. This was the hardest our team had played all year, and I started off the game hot with this 23-yard catch that helped set up a field goal for our first points of the game. More DJ interceptions kept the game close, and in the fourth quarter, we found ourselves down 17-13. But then on the most important drive of the game, I hauled in this huge 28-yard reception to help us work our way toward the end zone, and on 1st and goal, unfazed by the dancing chicken in the back of the end zone, DJ hit Joseph Ngata for the 2-yard touchdown to give us the 20-17 lead. The Cox tried their best to make a comeback, and instead of attempting a 53-yard field goal, they chose to go for it on 4th and 5. Our defense came up huge to tackle the receiver just short of the first down line, earning us the victory and securing another year of Cox superiority. We were selected to play against Texas A&M in the TaxSlayer Gator Bowl, who apparently hired the same end zone artist from last year's Rose Bowl, and I still wasn't really a huge fan. But that didn't matter though, because this ended up being our most complete game of the season. On our first drive, DJ hit me on a slant for the 8-yard touchdown, and on on our second drive, Peyton Page punched it in from the 1-yard line to give us a 2-score lead. In the third quarter, DJ threw one of his best balls of the entire season, putting it in the back corner of the end zone where no defenders could reach it, so I could haul in my second touchdown catch of the game. And Antonio Williams' touchdown in the fourth quarter meant the route was on, and as the clock hit 0, we hoisted up Coach Streeter and thanked him for helping turn our season around. But as thrilling as it was to be a starting wide receiver for the Clemson Tigers, I had bigger aspirations than winning the TaxSlayer Gator Bowl, so I was certain now that I could find greener pastures elsewhere. I had finished the season number 9 in the nation in receiving yards, and the moment I put my name in the transfer portal, I had interest from every big program in the country. The only question now was, where should I go? Should I chase a national title and join the Georgia Bulldogs? Should I come back as a hometown hero to play for the Oklahoma Sooners? Or do I head west in my quest to win a Heisman and play for Lincoln Riley and the USC Trojans? After thinking about it long and hard, I knew there was only one place I could go. I was coming home to play for the Oklahoma State Cowboys. It was a decision that nobody saw coming, since Stillwater is more than twice as far away as Norman is from my hometown of Shawnee, but Oklahoma's program had been struggling under head coach Brent Venables, while Oklahoma State ran an explosive offense led by Heisman hopeful quarterback Spencer Sanders. We started off the year on the road against Central Michigan, and right off the bat, I could tell that head coach Mike Gundy was committed to getting me the ball when in the first quarter, he drew up this awesome screen pass for me, and I took it for a 17-yard gain. I had spent the offseason working on my release against press coverage, and on the next drive, I threw off the cornerback, and Spencer Sanders delivered a beautiful ball for a 23-yard gain. Then in the second quarter, I capped off our touchdown drive with this beautiful diving one-handed grab, and right then, I knew that this was going to be a fun year. We won the game with ease, and I was beyond excited about what our potential could be this season. Now, we may have spent a little too much time partying and goofing off that week, but we weren't concerned because we were playing a no-name FCS school. However, that lack of focus showed in the first half as everyone was making bad decisions and not executing like we knew we were capable of. In the third quarter, with the score sitting at 10-3, I finally found open space and Spencer Sanders hit me along the sidelines for my first home touchdown of my Oklahoma State career. The score ended up being way closer than it should have been, but fortunately our defense forced a safety late in the fourth quarter to put the game away. While I only caught 3 passes, I made the very most of them to go over 100 yards and bring in a touchdown for the second straight game. In week 3, we faced the UTSA Roadrunners, who despite their 0-2 record, had one of the best defenses I had ever played against. But late in the first half, Spencer Sanders showed us what a playmaker he is when he tucked the ball away and took it himself for an 11-yard touchdown run. In the third quarter, he struck yet again, this time for a 7-yard touchdown, and the Roadrunners never had a chance. While I only had 30 receiving yards on the day, I was just relieved that we were able to get out of there with a win. In week 4, we were on the road against Texas Tech, and this ended up being our offense's best game of the year so far. Late in the first quarter, I made my first big play of the day with this huge catch from Spencer Sanders on this post route, and in the third quarter, I did what I've always done best, beating my defender on the slant to the inside and hauling in the touchdown over the middle. But it wasn't just me getting catches, we were able to spread the ball around, and late in the third quarter, I couldn't help but do a little celebration dive in front of the Red Raiders sideline as Braylon Presley hauled in a 61-yard touchdown catch. We won the game with ease, and I put up another solid stat line with my third touchdown catch in the first 4 games of the season. Our next game would be our biggest test of the year so far against number 18 Kansas State, and there's really no other way to say it, we got rocked. The game got off to a horrible start when our defense gave up a quick touchdown, and then Spencer Sanders threw a pick 6 on the screen pass, which set the tone for the rest of the game. Now, to our team's credit, we fought hard the whole game, with Spencer Sanders running in a touchdown late in the first half to make it 28-7, and then late in the fourth quarter against the Kansas State backups, I was able to haul in a 75-yard touchdown, but it all felt like hollow stat padding because we were still down by so much. We had been dominated on both sides of the ball, and we clearly had a lot more work to do if we wanted to achieve our goals this year. Next up was Kansas in what we hoped would be a bounce back game, but the Jayhawks gave us everything they had. They took a bend don't break approach on defense, letting us get in the red zone, but then holding strong once we got there, and on our first 2 drives, we were forced to settle for field goals. Despite our struggles, my connection with Spencer Sanders was rock solid, and it felt like he was able to hit me every time I got open. But then I made a critical mistake late in the third quarter when I ran the wrong route, causing Spencer Sanders to throw an interception when our team was going in to score. Early in the fourth quarter, Spencer Sanders was able to hit Braylon Presley for a 25-yard touchdown, but after our defense let Kansas drive down the field and take a 1-point lead with just over 2 minutes left, we knew we had to be perfect this drive to get in field goal range and hopefully win the game. With under a minute 40 remaining, I made one of the best catches of my college career, just barely keeping the ball off the ground and holding on through contact. We still needed one more first down though, and on 4th and 1, Coach Gundy called the play of the game with this motion screen to Kendall Daniels, which picked up the first down and got us in field goal range. The kick split the uprights and we celebrated the close win, and boy were we relieved that we wouldn't have to deal with the embarrassment of losing to Kansas. Next up was Baylor, who despite their 5-1 record was still unranked because they had played the easiest schedule in the country so far. We wasted no time in exposing them as frauds, with Spencer Sanders threading the needle to me on this 17-yard completion on our first drive, and then connecting with Kendall Daniels for the 16-yard touchdown. On the first play of the second quarter, Spencer Sanders and I showed our ability to improvise when I broke off my streak to cut it back inside the safety, and he delivered a perfect dime over the middle, which I then took all the way for the 47-yard touchdown. Baylor never had a chance, and we rolled to an easy victory while I put up another solid stat line, giving me 7 touchdowns in 7 games so far. In week 8, we were on the road at number 11 Iowa State, and we got off to a crazy fast start. Late in the first quarter, Braylon Presley hauled in this 45-yard touchdown, and I was so pumped that I had to pull out my signature move, the 360 fist pump. A Spencer Sanders scramble in the second quarter put us up 21-0, and it was never really close after that. I didn't have to do too much this game, and while I still contributed 7 catches for 99 yards, it was just awesome to be part of an offense that was so explosive, we didn't have to rely on any single player for our offense to be firing on all cylinders. Now, our game on the road at West Virginia was one of the craziest games I've ever played, and that was partly because we were somehow playing in a blizzard in late October. Things couldn't have gotten off to a worse start when the West Virginia linebacker got away with pass interference on our first drive, which resulted in an interception, and they promptly punched it in for a touchdown. But we fought hard, and this first quarter touchdown catch that I hauled in on 3rd and 16 helped our offense get back on track. The end of the first half was absurd, with West Virginia connecting on the 71-yard touchdown pass, followed by Spencer Sanders hitting Kendall Daniels on a 50-yard Hail Mary as time expired, which I thought was well worth a 360 fist pump. Unfortunately, in the second half, our offense stalled out while West Virginia's offense kept making big play after big play, and after a third quarter Spencer Sanders interception, we realized the game might be out of reach. In the fourth quarter, West Virginia scored a 25-yard touchdown on this screen pass to Jeremiah Aaron, and down by 17 points, the game was essentially over. We fought to the very end, with Spencer Sanders hitting me on this 67-yard touchdown, but ultimately we lost 59-49 in the highest scoring game that I had ever been a part of. Next, we traveled to Austin to play in the biggest stadium I had ever seen as we took on the Texas Longhorns. After a quiet start, in the second quarter, I flipped a switch and went God mode for the rest of the game, starting with this 76-yard touchdown to give us a 17-14 lead. Coach Gundy could tell I was in the zone, and he told Spencer Sanders to feed me the ball as much as physically possible. Later in the third quarter, I made this ridiculous jumping, twisting catch and held on through contact, which set up a Mason Cobb touchdown a couple plays later. Texas put up a hell of a fight though, and late in the fourth quarter on 4th and 4, they hit this 24-yard touchdown pass to Xavier Worthy to send the game into overtime. On 3rd and 7 in overtime, I initially got jammed like crazy, but I fought through it, got inside the defender, and hauled in the touchdown to give us a 7-point lead. It was all on our defense now, and on 4th and 10, they stopped Texas short of the first down line to put the game away. That capped off one of the best performances of my college career as I finished with 10 catches for 243 yards and 2 touchdowns. Next week was our biggest game of the season as we went on the road to take on number 1 ranked TCU. We got off to an electric start on our first drive when Spencer Sanders hit me in open space, and then I threw the safety off me and rumbled all the way to the end zone for a 35-yard touchdown. After that, TCU had me on lockdown and double covered for most of the game, but that opened up everything else for my teammates, like on this 57-yard touchdown touchdown catch by Braylon Presley to put us up 17-0. Now in the third quarter, I somehow held onto this catch through this insane hit where the TCU defender was called for targeting, and even though I popped right up, I wasn't feeling too great after that hit, and Coach Gundy kept me on the sidelines for the rest of the game. Our offense got us some insurance points, and the defense slammed the door shut on TCU's usually high-powered offense, and with that, we had officially taken down the #1 team in the country. In rivalry week, we were at home for Bedlam against Oklahoma, who was having another down year and needed a win just to be bowl eligible. We had other plans, however, with Joe Robinson catching a 3-yard touchdown on our first drive and Mason Cobb catching a 9-yard touchdown on our second drive to give us a quick 14-0 lead. With that, the blowout was underway, and we ended up winning 42-14, and I got over the 100-yard mark for the 8th time this season. After winning the Big 12 championship with ease, I finished the year first team All Big 12 along with Spencer Sanders, and our team was invited to play Syracuse in the Fiesta Bowl after we just barely missed out on making it to the college football playoff. The Fiesta Bowl against Syracuse ended up being the greatest game of my career. Unfazed by the end zone art that got worse and worse every bowl season, I was playing at a level I had never seen before. In the second quarter, I juked the cornerback out of his shoes on this nasty cut on my corner route that went for 35 yards. That catch set up a field goal, and then on the next drive, Spencer Sanders found me deep over the middle for an electric 41-yard touchdown. In the third quarter, I said I can do even better, and after I shook off the cornerback, Spencer Sanders hit me deep over the middle again, and I sprinted to the end zone for the 49-yard touchdown. But after Syracuse tied up the game with just 41 seconds left, I knew I needed to make one more clutch play for my team. To my disbelief, with just over 30 seconds remaining, the Syracuse defense let me get open on the outside, and as I plowed through the safety and ran down the sidelines for the game-winning touchdown, I realized that I was finally reaching my full potential. We celebrated our win together and dedicated the game ball to Coach Gundy, who had been an incredible leader all year long. I was unbelievably happy that I had found the perfect home at Oklahoma State, and with one final season remaining in my college career, I knew I had to stay laser focused because there were two huge goals that I still had to accomplish. With the graduation of quarterback Spencer Sanders, taking his place would be Garrett Rangel, a true gunslinger with one of the strongest arms in the country, and I had a feeling that me and him were about to have a truly special season together. In week 1, we hosted Central Michigan, and in the first quarter, I immediately knew that me and Garrett Rangel were on the same page when I torched the cornerback and he hit me over the top for a 65-yard gain. I had spent a lot of time focusing on my speed work this offseason, and in the second quarter, I got to show off my wheels again when Garrett Rangel was able to find me over the middle, and I outran the Central Michigan defenders for the 48-yard touchdown. The game ended up being an absolute blowout, and I finished with an insane stat line of 270 yards and 2 touchdowns. Week 2 was our annual beatdown of a no-name FCS team, and in the second quarter, Garrett Rangel and I connected on one of the most beautiful plays of our careers when he threw an absolute dime to the edge of the end zone, and I just barely got the toe tap in for the highlight reel touchdown. Later in the second quarter, I was able to show off my speed again, this time turning a simple drag into an electric 39-yard touchdown. It was another blowout win, and while it was just an FCS school, our team had a ton of confidence because we truly felt unbeatable. Now in week 3, we might as well have been playing an FCS team when we went on the road against Nevada. In the second quarter, we had a 28-0 lead, and I had hardly done anything so far, but that's when Garrett Rangel was able to find me over the middle for the wide open 7-yard touchdown. It was such a blowout that Coach Gundy played the backups for basically the whole second half, and we came away with a dominating 59-0 win. We came into our game against Texas Tech ranked number 3 in the nation, and we were dialed in from start to finish. On the first drive of the game, the Red Raiders tried to shake me up with this dirty horse collar tackle, but it didn't faze me as I kept racking up huge catches and hauled in a touchdown from Garrett Rangel on this slant in the second quarter. We dominated Texas Tech on both sides of the ball, and our convincing win vaulted us up the rankings all the way to number 1. Next, we hosted number 22 ranked West Virginia, and on our first drive, we kept the momentum rolling when Garrett Rangel delivered a beautiful ball that I was able to haul in at the front corner of the end zone to give us an early 7-0 lead. Then in the second quarter, with a 21-0 lead, the safety completely misplayed another great ball from Garrett Rangel angle, and I took off into the open space for the 68-yard touchdown. West Virginia put up some points in garbage time, but it was too little too late, and with how dominant our wins had been so far, it really seemed like we were on track to compete for a national title. In week 5, we had our toughest challenge yet when we went on the road against number 8 Kansas State. On our first drive, I stepped up big by catching this in route from Garrett Rangel and then running through 3 defenders to get us inside the 5-yard line and set up a Mason Cobb touchdown run. In the second quarter, we had our first major issues on offense when Garrett Rangel threw a bad pick 6, and I couldn't hide my frustration because I knew he was better than that. In the third quarter, we got back on track though when he was able to hit me on this perfect ball along the sideline and then over the middle for a wide open touchdown to give us a touchdown lead. But with just 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter, we found ourselves down by a touchdown, and that's when I took over. First by hauling in this drag over the middle for a 23-yard gain, and then on this beautiful ball from Garrett Rangel on the fade route where I barely kept my feet in to secure the game-tying touchdown. In overtime, our defense came up huge on 3rd and 1 when the Kansas State quarterback tried to force it over the middle, and then on 1st and goal, I was able to beat my defender to the inside to haul in the touchdown and secure the win for our team. With the resiliency our team showed under pressure, now we truly believed that we were unbeatable. We had another tough challenge ahead the following week as we went on the road against number 15 Baylor. Both teams traded blows for the entire first half, and then with under 2 minutes left, I broke the game open when I beat my defender over the top and ran through not one, but 2 Baylor defenders before taking it to the house for a huge 83-yard touchdown. With under 3 minutes left in the game, it seemed like we were in control when I found space on the outside for a 51-yard gain, and then Garrett Rangel was able to connect with Braylon Presley for a 24-yard touchdown to give us a 2-score lead. But then disaster struck after Baylor quickly scored to make it a 3-point game, and then instead of running the clock down to 0, we punted the ball back to Baylor to give them one more play from midfield with 3 seconds left. I could only watch in disbelief as our safety completely blew his assignment and let the Baylor receiver get wide open, and he hauled in the Hail Mary touchdown to give the Bears the victory. We watched the Baylor players celebrate their miracle win, and we knew that with that loss, we would have to play perfect for the rest of the year if we wanted to keep our national title hopes alive. The games didn't get any easier as next week we hosted number 3 TCU. Unfortunately for the Horned Frogs, we were mad after last week's loss, and I showed them how dialed in we were with this ridiculous diving catch over the middle on the second play of the game. Later in the first quarter, with our offense operating on all cylinders, I fought through the press and then cut inside for an easy touchdown to give us a 14-0 lead. With time ticking down in the first half, I put on this nasty move against the cornerback to get wide open for the touchdown on the fade route, and we never looked back. The win confirmed what we already knew, that when we were focused and played our best, we could hang with any team in the country. After jumping to number 4 in the rankings, we went on the road against Kansas to play in a nighttime blizzard. Kansas never had a chance, and it quickly became a challenge to just make the most spectacular plays possible when I went up and over the Kansas defender for a 29-yard gain. In the third quarter, I burned the Kansas cornerback over the top for a touchdown in the back corner of the end zone, and that score gave Garrett Rangel the new Oklahoma State school record for passing touchdowns in a single season. We congratulated Garrett Rangel on his incredible achievement and got out of Kansas with a dominating win in the snow. In week 10, we faced number 13 ranked Iowa State in what ended up being one of the craziest games of my career. Late in the second quarter, Garrett Rangel and I showed why we're the most dangerous QB wide receiver combo in the country when on 3rd and 14, he hit me on the outside for a 20-yard gain, and then 2 plays later, I tiptoed the sideline on this fade route for the 35-yard touchdown catch, which set the new Oklahoma State school record for receiving touchdowns in a single season. In the third quarter, we found ourselves down by a touchdown when I put the team on my back by catching this in route over the middle, running through an arm tackle, and rumbling all the way for the 57-yard touchdown. Iowa State didn't let up though, and after they took a 6-point lead, with under 2 minutes left, Mason Cobb was able to punch in the 1-yard touchdown to put us up by a point. Then it was up to the defense, but since Iowa State's kicker had gotten hurt on a blocked extra point earlier in the game, they had to go for the end zone. I thought we were in the clear, but on the final play of the game, the Iowa State quarterback connected with a receiver up the seam, and we tackled him literally on the 1-inch line to save the game and our season. We were unbelievably relieved to get out of there with a win, which brought our record on the season to 9-1. In week 11, we hosted Texas, who despite their 3-7 record, gave us one of our toughest games of the season. We were held scoreless in the first quarter for the first time all year, and we knew we'd have to dig deep to pull out this win. Now, Texas was committed to shutting me down with double teams all game long, but the good news is that it opened up things for my teammates, including this 45-yard bomb to Kendall Daniels to give us a 24-21 lead. After the game kept going back and forth, with 17 seconds left, Texas needed to convert a 4th and 2 to get into field goal range. The Texas quarterback sprinted ahead for the first down, but upon getting tackled, he put the ball on the ground and our defense jumped on it, securing us the nail-biting win. It was my least productive game of the season, but all that mattered is that we got the win, and we knew that we were now just one win away from making it to the college football playoffs. In rivalry week, we were on the road for Bedlam against number 4 Oklahoma in the same stadium where I had won the high school state championship game 4 years earlier. You couldn't have written a better start to the game when on the very first play, I broke my route inside, stepped over the diving tackle, and cut it back into open space to take it all the way to the house for a 71-yard touchdown. Oklahoma answered with an easy touchdown drive of their own, and after a ton of back and forth, we kicked a field goal as the first half came to an end to head into halftime down 27-23. In the second half, I felt unstoppable, and on our first drive coming out of halftime, I hauled in a pair of 22-yard catches to set up another field goal. Down by a touchdown in the fourth quarter, Garrett Rangel made the greatest throw of his entire career when he launched this pass over 50 yards in the air to hit me perfectly in stride for the massive 75-yard touchdown right in front of the breakdancing cowboy. With 18 seconds left, Garrett Rangel ran in a 1-yard touchdown for what should have been the game-winning score, but Oklahoma had other plans. With 8 seconds left, the Sooners completed a 35-yard pass to get them within striking distance, and on the final play of regulation, they hit their star receiver Marvin Mims for the 25-yard touchdown to send the game into overtime. After our defense held them to a field goal, we knew we were just a touchdown away from punching our ticket to the playoffs. On 2nd and 3, the Oklahoma defense left the corner of the end zone wide open, and while I lost the ball in the sun for just a second, I found it again and held on through contact to secure the win. It was the wildest win and the best stat line of my college career, and now we were just 2 wins away from glory. We finished the season ranked number 2 in the college football playoff rankings, and Garrett Rangel won the Heisman Trophy after passing for nearly 5,000 yards and scoring 55 touchdowns. I finished first team All-NCAA and earned the Biletnikoff Award for the best receiver in the country after racking up over 2,000 receiving yards and hauling in 26 touchdowns. After taking down Florida in the semifinals, we faced off against number 1 Michigan in the national championship game. Everything I had worked for over the past 5 years came down to this moment, and I was ready to give everything to win this game. I made my presence known on the very first play of the game when I cut my route upfield and Garrett Rangel was able to hit me outside the numbers for a 44-yard gain, and that completion gave Garrett Rangel the Oklahoma State school record for passing yards in a single season. Both offenses were unstoppable, and Michigan showed why they were the number 1 team in the country as they answered each of our touchdowns with a score of their own. Michigan had me on lockdown for most of the game, but late in the third quarter, I was able to break free, hauling in a 20-yard catch over the middle, and then on the first play of the fourth quarter, bringing in the 11-yard touchdown to give us a 2-score lead. Michigan never let up though, and late in the fourth quarter, after we failed to convert on this 4th and 18, it was up to our defense to close out the game. They completely smothered Michigan's high-powered offense, and on 4th and 15, they were able to stop the Wolverine receivers short of the first down line, and the national championship was officially ours. It was the perfect end to a perfect season. We had won our conference, we had set school records, and most importantly, we were national champions. All I could think about was celebrating with my teammates and reminiscing on the season that we'd remember for the rest of our lives, but in the back of my mind, I couldn't help but wonder what fate might have in store for the next chapter of my football career.